Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you for our panel for being here. I was involved when this committee passed legislation to reform, to alter Dodd-Frank. It occurred on a straight party line vote, every Republican voting yes, every Democrat voting no. It became clear to me that the opportunity to actually make some substantive changes in the regulatory environment for lenders would not occur. There weren't 60 votes on the floor of the United States Senate to accomplish that. We then spent 2 years trying to figure out among Republicans and Democrats on this committee what we could accomplish. The end result was 2155. I was pleased for what I thought would be the outcome of 2155, its consequences upon those who lend money, and more importantly than the lenders, those who are actually the recipients of the credit. Unfortunately, when I talked to Kansas lenders today and asked what was the consequence of 2155, it's a bit of a shrug of shoulders, hope that something's going to happen. We haven't seen much relief. I was also pleased to see that Republicans and Democrats, I want the United States Senate, I want this committee to function. I was pleased to see that we could find common ground, pass legislation on an important topic that affects the country. And if the end result of what I've seen to date on 2155 is the final result, then in my view, we've failed. I don't know who we is, Congress, the regulators. There is simply not enough consequence to the passage of 2155 out in the real world. Chairwoman McWilliams, I very much appreciate you seeing, listening, learning, traveling the country. It is those bankers and particularly their customers that I'm the most concerned about. I'm particularly concerned about agriculture today when commodity prices are what they are, when weather has been what it's been. The survival of our family farms, our agriculture communities in rural America is at stake. And I'm of the view that in the absence of a relationship bank, let me say that differently, a relationship between the banker and the lender, the ability for agriculture's future is minimized significantly. And I've used these hearings as an opportunity from time to time to provide examples of that. But the reality is when times are tough in agriculture, the survival of agriculture is dependent upon a relationship between the lender and the borrower. Oftentimes that's generational. Family-owned financial institution, family-owned farm going back to grandparents, great-grandparents. And in the absence of a bank's ability, a financial lender's ability to take into account things that are important, such as character, past history, the ability for the communities that I represent in rural America is very, very bleak. So I'm trying to figure out what it is that either Congress hasn't done or the regulators have not pursued under 2155 to make the difference that I had hoped would be there. The idea that the CBLR that the chairman mentioned is the best we can do is amazing to me. The call report, that we would have slightly less reporting, a few pages less, after all the effort that went into trying to figure out how to do this better. Regulations have their place, but I would indicate that there is little systemic risk to the kind of relationship banks that I wanted to see improvement for. And again, I point this out to bankers and to credit union management. I'm not so much about you and your success, I'm about what the consequences are if you don't have that success. And rural America is at a point in time in which the struggles are significant and great. It's been true throughout the history of our country, but these are among the most difficult times there are, and access to credit is key. I saw this last year when we had grass fires in a county in Kansas in which 80% of the grass was burned, and therefore the collateral of a cattleman or woman's, their operation, there was no collateral left. No cattle, no fences, no grass. And yet the financial institutions in that community said, we know these people, they will pay their bills. If this becomes always about crossing every T and dotting every I, if it is about looking for more dust, then we will have failed a significant component of our economy, and states like Kansas will be significantly, their future significantly diminished. My question is, can I expect more? Is it a matter of timing? Is there conflict within your agencies, within the regulatory community, as to what can be done? Is it divisive? It seems to me there are a number of issues in which the agreement ought to be easily reached, and yet the results don't appear. What is missing? What more needs to be done by either me as a senator, or what can I expect more to happen from regulators? For as long as I've been in the Senate, on the banking committee, regulators have said the right things to me. We have an advisory committee. We're studying the issues. We're working on this. But if you ask a banker, has there been any consequence? Unfortunately, in almost every circumstance, the answer is no, or at least not much. What can I do differently? What can you do differently?
And if you could keep your responses brief, and then maybe supplement.
Yeah, Senator Moran, I appreciate your concerns, and I think if you I was a banker also, and so I do interact with a lot of bankers across America, and my family still owns my original grandfather and mother's farm in Iowa, so I'm tied very closely into the farming community of what's going on. I think if you look at the list of the 2155 activities, the 20 interagencies that are amongst us, I would tell you there is great agreement, great interaction. The rule rating process is something that I was exposed to since I've been in Washington, and it is complex, but I think if we are here on September 30th, you will see the vast majority of those are across the finish line, with a few of those that are going to move into the fourth quarter. And I would say there is no conflict. In fact, Yelena, Randy, and I either meet monthly or have a phone call every week, and the topic is always what are the outstanding issues on 2155. I know from each of the other agencies and the OCC, we have more resources dedicated to this cause. And so I would say be a little patient with us. We're going to get these across the finish line, and there is no issues amongst us that we have not been able to work out.
That's encouraging.
And if we could let that be the answer for the group and the others supplemented in writing, I'd appreciate that.
Did I speak too long?
Yes. But it was interesting.